All right, everyone. This is another episode of Armchair Analyst. I'm your usual host, Nefarious, and joining me is of course, my usual co-host, Jim Gotham City. Say hello.
What's up?
All right. So in today's episode, we'll be giving a wrap-up of CES, formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show, now just CES, and basically it's a way of starting off the year with all of the craziest and wackiest stuff we get to look forward to, technology, gaming, and all sorts of cool stuff. So yeah, so this is what happened this weekend over Las Vegas. So one of the first big things that we saw was the growing trend of IoT and making everything compatible with smart homes. You know, you have devices like the Amazon Echo and Google Home and whatnot. We're getting much more prominent, and we're seeing a lot more devices become compatible with it. For example, with Alexa, that's Amazon's device. You're seeing a lot more stuff go with. So you have the LG coming out with a refrigerator that's has integration with Alexa. Ford, they're having their car with built-in Alexa controls. We're seeing a lot more stuff. It's just Sleep Aid, which goes by the name of Nightingale. That's the company. They claim to be making a product that's going to integrate with it as well. We're seeing some lamps, which is one by GE, and just a lot of really cool stuff. Interestingly enough, we're also going to see Lenovo coming out with a smart assistant speaker, which, best I can tell, is going to be very similar in functionality and price-wise to the Amazon Echo.
I think
Not
it's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
Lenovo's is powered by Alexa.
it is powered by Alexa. And it's $50 less, but I can't quite tell what the difference is between it. It seems like it's pretty much the same, but I guess time will tell to see a little bit more about it. Any initial thoughts on it?
I think the one thing that surprised me was how many devices are actually being tied into Amazon's ecosystem, and how little Google Home got mentioned was pretty surprising to me. That whether it's Google that fell behind on I don't know what Google did incorrectly, but
Well,
Amazon really went forward and everything was Alexa, Alexa, Alexa on
so
stage.
I have both a Google Home and an Alexa. Sorry, an Amazon Dot. Alexa, shut up. It's gonna do that every time you say your name. Um, so I have both a Amazon Echo Dot and a Google Home, which I got for Christmas. And I was looking a lot into the whole smart house IoT, just getting that set up. It seems like there's a lot more devices just simply are integrated with Amazon's thing. Part of that is they came out first, and the other part of it is, it seems that Google's API doesn't seem to be as mature and as powerful as Amazon's as of now.
I don't know if it's about coming out first. Remember, Nest was the first one that came out with the whole smart home and tying it into
Right.
IoT, and that's an Alphabet company, the owners of Google. And it's it's not about coming out first. I think it's more the second point. The API seems to be much more mature for Amazon's, and especially with AWS being tied in and more
I think
people in that
it's a
ecosystem,
bit of
it's
both,
more
right?
being pushed that way.
Amazon's had a little bit more time to come up with a better API, just in that regard.
Yeah, and more customers I think are using the Amazon ecosystem, so
Right.
it
Well,
would
you also
make
see
more
a lot more
sense for them to do.
advertising for Amazon's products. You know,
Mhm.
the few times I watch TV, I've seen a few ads for an Echo, whereas I don't see too many for the home. I saw a few around Christmas time.
I see them on an occasional, but the one thing that I did see that I can't remember who exactly came up with it, but they mentioned this, whether it's Amazon has to push this harder more than Google, and I think Google might not even be focusing too much, which was an interesting perspective. It's not mine, but I found this kind of interesting to look at. The Remember, Google's core business is search
Advertising.
and advertising, and you lose advertising when you go to Google Home, or in the traditional aspect of what Google does, it's gone. Whereas Amazon's entire business model is you buy off of Amazon, which is what the Echo does.
Well, their main business model is technically AWS, but
That's their biggest. But Amazon to consumers, I mean, Google to consumers is free. Nothing costs money. Amazon to consumers is you buy, it's a retailer. It's an online retailer for
I
people.
think the flip
And
side then is
that
that
brings in a
Amazon
lot.
um, Amazon's one thing, but Google has their whole ecosystem, and they want to integrate it, ideally with Android. So through that, you go and use more and more Google products. You do more searches, and they'll get more ad revenue through that.
Well, that's the thing though. How does when you do a Google search on a phone or a computer, the first two, three links are ad supported. Uh, they're pushed by ads, right? They're ad sponsors.
But
But on Google
done a
Home, they're not
search,
going to go, oh, hey, this was sponsored by
right?
weather.com when you
But
ask for weather.
you are signed in to your Google account,
Yeah,
so
sure. They can
that
still build a
goes
profile.
search history. They build that profile of you, and then they
But
can start.
that's the thing though, the more often you use Google Home, the less time they have to deliver ads to you. If you're doing a majority of your web searches through your home, that's less opportunity for you to pull out your computer, pull out your phone to actually conduct that search, which
Well,
is in the essence losing Google revenue.
but with the current implementation of Home, I can tell you that's not as often as you might think.
True.
Uh, so,
But
for example, let me just show you right now. Okay, Google, what day is it?
It is Friday, the 13th of January 2017.
Right. So that's Google Homes, whereas Alexa's will be Alexa. What day is it?
It's Friday, January 13th.
So they both will do something similar like that, but the only thing is, if you've ever used Google Now, it's more powerful than Homes. For example, I can do reminders on Google Now, where I can just say, "Okay, Google, remind me to go do something later today." Whereas,
I can't set reminders yet.
yeah, see, if you just heard that,
yeah,
Home went off, and it's just, hold on now.
that's
Do
due
it on my
to
phone,
it.
but I can't do it on
Well,
my.
remember, Google Home isn't Google Now. Google Home is Google Assistant, which is
Right.
different from Google Now.
Right, I understand that, but to a home, to an end user, they just see a Google product that looks similar. It's
Right.
got the same similar UI. It's got the same way of talking to it. You say, "Okay, Google," and then do something. To the average user, it's the same
I
thing.
don't know how to help with that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think it's. I mean, what I noticed is that that perspective is interesting to me because it kind of makes sense that the more you start asking Google Home, what's the weather? What do I need to wear something? Hey, tell me what a product's price is. That's less time that you're actually going to look up online. Whereas Amazon doesn't care at all. Amazon wants to push their own thing. So when you ask for a price, they're going to tell you the price of a product from
But,
Amazon.com, not
but Amazon
Walmart.com.
also builds a profile of you. So whenever you go on Amazon, you buy something,
Yes,
then
of
you start
course.
getting search recommendations.
True, but that's where Amazon Echo can keep pushing it for their own products. Now, Google can't do that. Google doesn't have their own retail, doesn't have a reason to push their own things. They're going to say, if you want to search pizza, who paid us what and is near to you, so we'll push theirs first, kind of thing, right?
The
Whereas
other,
Amazon is if I search, hey, Amazon, can you order me paper towels, they're going to pick through your profile, find the best one that they think you'll
right.
like, and promote that to
I
you.
believe it was the Amazon Dash, which are basically these little buttons that you
Yeah,
just push and it will send you a new one.
right.
I want to say that if you can integrate it with
Yeah, those are integratable.
Echoes, I've not tried anything like that just because I don't want to accidentally order anything.
Yeah.
But I believe you can do that.
Yeah, I believe I read that. Yeah, you can do that on
The
those
thing is,
devices.
the Echo does a lot more than the Home, just in trying out a bunch of basic things as well. Um, Obviously, they both do Spotify, Pandora for music. Amazon's ecosystem, we use their Prime Music library. Google's, we use the Google Play Music library. But other than that, it doesn't seem like there's too much of a difference other than you can do a lot more with
Yeah.
Alexa. There's the smart skills, which lets you add more and more stuff. Um, and with that, you can just keep adding more and more things to it, integrations. I
Yeah.
believe Google Homes also lets you use the if this, then that.
Hmm.
So you can go and you can have it, and you could set up low profiles and trigger things to happen through that. And you can integrate with Tasker, but
Yeah,
that's
Tasker is the other one.
a lot more manual setup. Someone like me who loves to tinker, great. I love to tinker. I have both. I can play around and try to get the best of both worlds. But again, the average end user just wants to plug it in and just have stuff work, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to go through all that.
And that, but the one thing that the Google does, I think, way better than Amazon is even in the demo you showed, their natural language processing is easily, to me, 1,000 times better than Amazon's or anybody's right now that has an assistant, kind of. And Google has done that incredibly, incredibly well. Over the years, they've improved the natural speaking of their assistant, whether it was Now or Now Assistant. It sounds much more natural. Even when you asked what day it is, she sounds much more natural than Alexa, who sounded more like a robot. And
It's
that'll get better probably
much
from
more
Amazon,
robotic.
but Google's is much more natural to talk to, other than the aspect of, for some odd reason, Google forcing you to use OK Google. If they didn't allow that and then you could remap that to something else,
That is
or
very annoying. I'll say
or
that.
give an actual name. Give an actual name. You don't say, hey, Echo to Amazon Echo. You say, hey, Alexa. You say, hey, Cortana, even though Cortana is the name of their product as well.
But Cortana's was a
Siri,
brilliant name for a different reason altogether, right?
yeah. And then Google's is, hey, we have Google Now, Google Assistant, but we're going to say, okay, Google. Maybe
Even Sirius
create a
is
name.
even Sirius is a name.
Yeah. Give it a name and it should be fine. What I don't know if they need to give us a choice on changing the name. I don't know if that matters. Maybe they want a name to stick because then wherever you go, that will work. Um, maybe that's how they want to keep it consistent, but give it an actual name. Don't okay Google kind of
I
is
think part of Google's
awkward.
strategy here is to keep pushing the Google brand.
Yeah, of course, but assistants, it's Hey Google kind of is a bit better, but
Not
rather than
natural.
Okay Google. But it's a bit weird. Google isn't really a name, so it sounds a little bit weird. It's not that much of a big change, of course, but I think Google has some work in that aspect. Assistant seems to be catching up pretty fast in
Yes.
terms of their APIs and how developers are going to access it, especially because Alphabet, their parent company, also has Nest. Will be much more closely tied. Nest is obviously supported, I think, by Amazon as well.
Yes.
But you're going to
Even
start seeing Google's tie into
the
their Android.
platforms, the Samsung Smart Things. I believe it's Samsung Smart Things.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's called Smart Things from Samsung.
those are the ones that really work well with it. But
Yeah.
there is some other limitations. For example, well, okay, I can show you some of the integration, even if I don't have it. So, hey Alexa, turn off the light.
I couldn't find any smart devices on your network in Nikit's account. To use smart home features, first, ask me to discover devices.
So it at least connects through that, and it knows, hey, it's there, and it's added. Whereas if I do Google's, hey Google, turn off the light.
It looks like you haven't connected any lights yet. Just open the Google Home app and go to Home Control to add lights.
Right. So you heard right there. Google Home sounded much more natural, but they both will work. They both get the job done.
True. But in the end, you want to make it sound like you're talking to a person rather than a computer.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
the end goal.
exactly. And they'll both get there, right? It's a matter of time. They're both major corporations with lots and lots of money.
Yeah. I think Amazon Echo was a bit surprising that they got such a big push from all these manufacturers. Maybe it's also a big push for manufacturers saying, we don't want to give so much power to Google. We're going to start splitting it, essentially taking the Samsung kind of angle of we'll start using other people as well. And I'm sure if Google gets popular, manufacturers will also go, all right, we're going to put Google support as well.
You mentioned you mentioned other people. The other interesting thing is having multiple people sharing the device.
Yeah.
So if I want to play music, I have my own taste in music. You have your own taste in music. Well, let's say we both lived in the same home, right? Just whose is it going to play from? Whose account do you use, and how do you get it to change?
I
Do
don't
you
know.
have to recognize your voice and then go based off of that?
That's what Google Assistant does, is what they showed off at I/O. And the other thing Google's does incredibly well, more than Amazon's after I demoed, is listening through noise for your voice, listening over the radio, listening over just the TV. Google's works profoundly well. That it just mitigates whatever noise is coming in, only focuses on your voice, and can actually, and the best part about Google is it shows you, at least on the phone, because that's where you can use it, shows you what it actually senses as the word, and adjusts to much more of a natural kind of question, right? Even if you didn't word it exactly.
One annoying thing though is that when I try to use the OK Google command, then I have both.
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
I have both the UI come up on my Nexus 6B. It comes up on my Nexus 4, and it also comes up on the home. It usually defers to the home just because that seems to take priority. But every now and then, it won't defer on one of them, and they'll just say, "Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said." And it's actually quite irritating in that.
No, I think that was actually, I liked that approach. They demoed it at I/O where they
No,
explained.
I like it deferring it, but sometimes it doesn't do it properly,
well,
or it doesn't quite hear it properly. And I'm part of it's just you have an older device, less nice microphone, whatever. But
the concept of it was at I/O they said all your devices will be listening, and it will create a mapping of to see which device is the best one to answer the question you've asked. And most of the time it's probably is home because it has a loudest speaker, but based on proximity of your voice, it will change what device answers.
no, it
So,
definitely does that.
Triggering on all your devices actually, I think, intended by them that it triggers. So,
I've never actually had it go off in my bedroom. It's always gone to my phone whenever I'm there. So.
okay. So, but I know that I do know that it's supposed to trigger on all your devices that's connected to that home. So it always listens. I think maybe it was programmed to go off home every time, but it listens, it tracks which device to listen from. And listening from multiple devices, maybe if you're walking around your house while you're asking the question, maybe you have multiple devices, so it listens for one word off one device and listens for another word off another device.
The dot works in a somewhat similar way. You usually buy them in packs of 6 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is you put one in each room and then they all synchronize.
Yeah. So that it's a different approach. But I think the biggest thing from either one is I think if both of them kind of got a little bit cheaper, hitting that $100, I think both devices will strike more.
Home was for about $70, $80 during Black Friday.
Home.
And then the dot you can get for about $50. Now the dot is
Home I thought was $100 during the holiday season. There was a $20 or $30 discount because 130 MSRP. I don't believe it hit $80.
$120 and it was $70 specifically, I think, for me on Black Friday.
Okay, that's interesting.
Or at least when I looked at it.
I know Amazon's Echo was $80. One of the devices was $80, but I didn't see Home hit $80.
One distinction between the Echo is basically the dot, but the Echo has a actual set of speakers on it, whereas the dot is just a small device. So this is the dot, very tiny. And you're supposed to connect it to a Bluetooth speaker. Whereas the Home has actual speakers on it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, it was $100.
Okay.
It was.
I guess that's all we really have on IoT.
Yeah, I think. But remember, IoT will, in terms of assistance, Alexa will probably be a massive hit coming into cars as well, with Ford introducing it in the show. But we'll see Amazon's get bigger, Google catch up, I think, very heavily.
Another thing to talk about then is what does it mean for Siri and Cortana?
Cortana, as mentioned, Cortana is also heading to the car, as Microsoft announced not really announced but showed off their Microsoft connected vehicles. That's another thing that I think will be a pretty big push from Microsoft. The big thing is with the next few years will be 5G and V2V, vehicle-to-vehicle communications, along with the whole AI aspect. In terms of our infrastructure, how do we handle vehicles talking to each other, and V2V in terms of vehicles, as well as V2I infrastructure, with several smart cities occurring across the nation. We've seen demos between like smart vehicles across Michigan now, Nevada, Las Vegas, Columbus, Ohio. We've seen, I think, a city in Texas also doing it. Denver, Colorado is a smart city that's being powered by Panasonic, I want to say.
You're telling me Watch Dogs is the future.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Watch Dogs is I don't know if the cars were connected to the grid though. This is, I mean, cars being connected.
I don't think the cars were, but everything else that was computerized was.
Yeah. The grid was connected. I think that's going to be a big thing. That will be definitely be a big push. Car manufacturers want it, and I think everybody wants it because there is no bad side to it. I'm not talking about driverless cars. I'm talking about you being able to understand the road conditions better because vehicles are talking to each other better. You can create better traffic patterns. Traffic lights work better because they can sense how many cars are coming and what to expect in terms of traffic. Cars will be able to expect routes.
Sort of privacy concerns that will come up. But
yeah, for sure. But I think in the benefits of saving human lives without losing your ability to drive your car, if you enjoy that, I don't see any downsides in terms of the benefits that it provides. Yes, of course, privacy is always something that matters very deeply.
I guess we've just naturally moved towards cars. Do you want to talk about smart cars next?
Yeah. I mean, smart cars we've seen in terms of driverless. There's some companies, as I mentioned, Microsoft stepping into the connected vehicle from their V2V approach. We have NVIDIA developing their own actual vehicle, stepping outside their gaming chips to make Pascal's architecture tie into their vehicles. I think they were using a Ford.
I've seen NVIDIA's graphics card drivers. I don't trust their cars. I'm telling you that now. There's some update and it's going to screw everything up. I'm not going near that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, I think NVIDIA has a video up on YouTube with their. There was a Lincoln that they were messing with. That actually looked fairly significantly ahead of where I thought they would be. It looked pretty amazing. We've seen other ones as well, and I think NVIDIA doesn't actually look like they're playing catch up. I think they're actually ahead. And somebody was mentioning that NVIDIA is actually ahead because they were pushed onto the scene. They were already good at this before everybody else. Everybody else is building it now. The nature of graphics chips and the way you build them is exactly how these cars and driverless and AI wants to function. And that's why you have Google creating their own chips. You have Microsoft creating their chips for AR.
Are you talking about the BMW car?
No, I'm talking about NVIDIA. NVIDIA did theirs with.
They're entirely their own thing.
Yeah, NVIDIA has developed their own brand thing. They're completely separate from everybody else's. So they're building the chips and the software. Whereas everybody else built the software and they're going, wait, we need to build chips for this because how can we handle this many?
Just think, 10 years from now, how interesting that would be. So which cars is that, a Honda or Toyota? No. It's got to be NVIDIA or Google, right?
Yeah, who's it supported by? Who's it supported by? I mean, in terms of NVIDIA partnering with Lincoln, I don't know if they're partnered with Lincoln, but I've seen it with Lincoln, Audi. I think they had it with Mercedes last CES, not this one.
BMW's something was with this one.
Yeah, and then we had Google, not Google's Alphabet's Waymo now official is partnered with Fiat Chrysler with their the van, I can't remember the name of that van now, but their family van that they just introduced this over 2016, I think, that is being demoed by them.
Side note, what do you think of the Chrysler Portal concept?
The Portal, that conference was weird to say lightly. I think the whole millennial approach, it's a car for millennials by millennials. Come on, millennials, we're 17 years into the new millennium. Even if you're millennial, this looks, I don't know if it's for millennials or anybody. I think it could be for anybody, but I wasn't impressed with it in any way. I'm not sure if other people thought it would be pretty amazing, but I think the concept that they put inside the car was interesting, and I don't know if I want to say any more than interesting. because I think
Do
they
you want to talk
share.
about you want to talk about what the concept is? Just explain it really quickly.
Well, I mean, the concept is so the van I remember is a Pacifica. I think it's based on that design a bit for the Pacifica, and it's the doors open like the wealthy Bentleys, Bugattis to the side, I think, rather than the traditional door openings. And the seats, I think, turn flip, and you can change configurations. It's a
Yeah.
shared
So
HUD display.
uh, you can have one seat up to 6 seats, what I understand.
Yeah. The steering wheel is like a pilot. If you're like a pilot, the shared console thing is interesting because I know smaller vehicles are doing that. I think the Honda Fit and those ones I can't remember exactly, but they did the whole shared where your dashboard isn't to the driver's side; it's in the middle
It
of the
does
vehicle.
have biometric instead of keys. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so all this, I mean, it's obviously a concept vehicle for that reason. It's a
Right.
concept,
Right.
but we could definitely see a lot of this things trickling through to their existing models within the next few years. And I think the biggest one is the HUDs. So last CES made a huge focus on HUDs. Um, and more as the year went on, car manufacturers started showing off different HUDs, and I was surprised that I didn't see too many. Maybe I missed them this CES, but HUDs is something I think is very interesting. Essentially, a GPS without having to look at your GPS, the speedometer without having to look at your speedometer, right on your windshield. I think that's a pretty cool concept, and how you display that is very interesting. And and I I want to see more HUDs, and I didn't think I saw enough HUDs.
Mhm.
But HUDs, I think, are the first thing we'll start seeing trickling through into the existing models. Um, the other big thing that I think this portal thing and every other kind of car manufacturer started showing is the LTE internet capability in the vehicles, where you can extend your phone's coverage into your vehicle. Ford started that a while ago, and now it's coming to a lot of other manufacturers. It's a cool concept. I thought it was exactly, it's a concept. I don't think it's something that will be pushed too heavily. We'll see how much of its ideas and philosophies come through, though.
I, I don't really have too much to say on that. All right. Anything else? Last words about cars?
Cars, I mean, this next year I think will be pretty big in terms of V2V getting ready with Tesla hiring Apple's guy to design more Teslas. We're going to see I think more states probably might pass to test autonomous vehicles, and we're going to see much more of this ecosystem around Google's Android Auto, Apple's CarPlay, which more vehicles are shipping with. But in terms of smart cars and everything, I think we're still a bit of ways out. Even I think luxury manufacturers won't start shipping for a while. In terms of that, I think Teslas are probably one of the few things that are going to be around that can drive themselves and are much more intelligent, I guess, than other vehicles.
I mean, in the areas that have a Tesla storefront, you see a lot of Teslas, right?
Oh yeah,
I mean, where we live, we've seen quite a few Teslas.
yeah.
It's surprising how many of them are. You don't realize it until it's just, oh look, this Tesla's everywhere.
And I imagine that's because I don't know the percentage of people that are buying it versus leasing it. I imagine people might be leasing them.
That's a good point.
So which would be a lot cheaper than purchasing an $100,000 vehicle. But who knows? Maybe they are purchasing it.
All right. TVs. So did CES make TVs great again?
TVs have always been great. Yeah. TVs were interesting. I thought it was a letdown this year. I mean I've seen a
What
lot
do
of
you think
TVs,
of
but I didn't.
the OLED TV?
OLED's been my thing for the last few years. More than 4K, OLEDs have been my kind of hype thing that I've been waiting for, OLED and HDR. And HDR we're seeing pretty much now being built into every TV set that I think they showed off at CES. It's big, it's here, consoles now support it. We're getting a lot more of the support. Monitors now is along with them.
So what about the super thin one? Was it from Panasonic?
LG.
LG. My bad.
LG's the thing is pure beauty, and
I was surprised at just how thin it is. I mean, yeah, we're getting on that verge of making it paper thin, but still, I wonder how light it is.
It's literally wallpaper. It bends. It bends when you pull it off. I don't know how they built it, but it's extremely thin. And the interesting way.
How pliable is it then? Right, because you already have your curved TVs, but it's not like you can just go and start actually bending it.
You can. That's what they showed off. They were peeling it off basically the background that they had set up. Obviously, people aren't going to do that. I don't think people will. That's the intention of it, but they're showing that it can do that. It's still a flat screen. I think that's the goal of it. But TVs that look like they were painting on the wall was what LG went for, and it's amazing that they built it, and it's incredible engineering that they were capable of doing it. And the best part of it is, I think Sony also did this along with theirs, but LG's thing connects all through a cord, one single cord that goes down. So it's minimal, and it connects to another bar. So there's literally nothing in this TV.
It looks nice, right?
There's
we're both tech people, and wires become a huge mess.
Yeah, it looks, and the thing is, there is absolutely nothing on this. It's literally just a screen or a monitor. Everything else is through that cord. Whether if you use an antenna or your satellite or cable, it's all in this sound bar. There's no speakers on the TV either. It's all in that sound bar down there. Interestingly, I think there was. I can't remember who it was, but I want to say one of the TV manufacturers showed a TV where the sound comes from behind the screen, and I can't remember who that was. Maybe it was Sony. I don't remember. But one of the TVs their sound came from literally the screen itself. And that was kind of interesting.
I don't quite remember which one it was.
That was also a concept I think a phone manufacturer showed, the Xiaomi Mix phone with the bezel-less display. When you wanted to remove the mic speaker at the top for your headset, it uses, I guess, I don't know what it uses, but it vibrates to create the sound. So it feels, you will hear their sound, but it's not actually through a speaker. TV, I want to say, yeah, it's Sony's. Sony's TV outputs directly from behind the screen.
Sony also had their Xperia thing that came up, right? Their Xperia projector.
Yeah, Sony finally came back with OLED, which was interesting. They've been gone from the OLED game for a while. Sony was one of the first ones to step into OLED with gaming, especially with the Vita. Their Vita panels was one of the first things to use an OLED panel. You had the PlayStation TV, I think that was an LED panel. I'm not sure on that, but you had multiple products from Sony, and then they just kind of disappeared and went straight back to LCD, and then finally came back to OLED to a gorgeous, gorgeous TV panel. And this is one of the things, speaking on the topic before, TVs are shipping with Google Homes built into this, and Sony seems to be really partnering close with Google on it, and their devices all, I think, support Google's TV and Assistant, and they will launch with it. Which was interesting.
But that is nice, right? So right now, when I have my TV on, if it's on the Chromecast connection, I can use Google Home, and then I can use that to go and start controlling my Chromecast, play stuff. And that's convenient. I mean, I know it sounds super lazy, right? Oh, you can't be bothered to go and push the button and take 30 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's part of it's just a matter of convenience.
Yeah.
And that's how I basically explain home automation to a lot of people. It's okay. So I'm in my room. I'm reading a book at nighttime, and I've got my lights on. Now I can get out of bed. I can turn off the lights, and I can go back to my bed and go to sleep, right? Or I can just say light off. And it's just the convenience factor of that, you know?
And the energy saving on top of that.
Right, or I'm cooking something and I'm chopping vegetables and I just want to watch the TV or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can go and I can fish out my phone and I can hit the pause button, or I can go to my remote and hit the pause button or whatever, or I can just say pause. You know?
Yeah,
and it's just the nicety factor of it. It's not needed, but I guess you can say it augments the experience.
Yeah, and it's nice that TVs, I think, are coming built in with Chromecast support and I remember Miracast being one of them. I don't know if these come with Miracast. I don't know who supports Miracast anymore, but
I mean, Google pretty much tried to kill Miracast, right, with their by pushing Chromecast.
Yeah, so but Chromecast being built in is a nice addition. Sony's TVs looks gorgeous, expensive, very, very, very expensive. LG's wallpaper TV is very expensive, but the best thing about OLEDs is I think a year or 2 years ago was $20,000 for an OLED TV. Now they're $2,000. Within the next year, they're probably going to be affordable for most people to buy at $1,000. And OLED is what I really, really would like to get. OLED 4K makes it all the better, but I'm waiting for OLED to drop a little bit more and pick up a TV then. And the other big thing, I don't know, TVs at CES was the screens are getting big, very, very big. Uh, and that's becoming the norm, just like our phones. Uh, I have a 60-inch television, and apparently that's small now. People are 65 is the average, 70 is now the new large, 70, 75 is kind of yeah, this is a new theater experience. 60 inches too tiny now for most people. Maybe
people buy it too. That's the thing.
Yeah, and they're getting very cheap now. I think during holiday season, 60-inch televisions going for less than $1,000, even $500 ranges from Walmart and Target and those guys. But if maybe next year 60 to 70-inch OLED 4K TV might be $1,200, which would be incredible with all the smart capabilities.
Interesting.
That's just those. But even more that I'm expecting is, I think the reason why I'm expecting price to drop is the other two big guys that kind of showed up and were kind of actually tiny in terms of who we know as TV manufacturers, but are pretty massive companies. Hisense, TCL, Xiaomi, that came out with their TVs.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Hisense advertises themselves as the biggest company you've ever heard of.
Yeah.
My TV is a Hisense company, and I never heard of them before I bought it. But I was very surprised to find out. I guess not super surprised, but I learned that they were actually very, very big in China.
Yeah, Hisense is big. Xiaomi, of course, is much more profoundly big due to their phones. And then TCL is making a big thing. I think they're spending, both of the Chinese companies are spending big money in sponsorships in the NBA. But the TCL and Hisense, I think Milwaukee Bucks, I think theirs is Hisense or TCL's. But they're making a big marketing push to recognize their TVs, and they're going to be cheaper. And they explained it why they're cheaper. They're the people that are building the sets for the big guys that are Sony or whoever. So they know how to make it cheaper. They're cutting the middleman out. Their TVs are going to be much, much cheaper than what Sony can push out. I don't know. I haven't used any of this series. I know Vizio, a big American company, is being bought out by Lay TV, another Chinese company. I don't know, Leica, I think is the name of the actual company, and their TV is Lay TV.
Okay.
That's still going through the hurdles of approval from the government.
Okay.
But if that's a big thing. To me, I thought Vizios were affordable, but I didn't like the performance of Vizios. To me, maybe that's because of the models that I bought, but I've had issues with a variety of their TVs, and probably my next TV definitely won't be a Vizio. I'm looking to go back to a Samsung or Sony, but LG is making a big play for LED, so that might be a thing. But Hisense looks, TCL, Hisense, Xiaomi, again, Leico might be big players in the TV field within this next 2, 3 years as they get more notoriety across the world and people start noticing them.
All right. I guess that's it for TVs.
Yeah, bezel-less TVs, yay! That was CES.
All right. Let's talk phones. I think one phone I really want to hone in on is the Asus Zenfone AR. It's one of the 2 phones that have Project Tango support built into it, and that's really cool. And it also supports Daydream. It's one of the first few phones that has that. Thoughts on the phone? I guess I should give the specs first for it, right? So it's a 5.7-inch super AMOLED phone. So that's basically a 2K screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's got Android 7.0. That's Nougat. Probably get 7.1.1 eventually, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you think. It's got 6 gigs of RAM. It's got a Qualcomm 821 Snapdragon processor. And it's got a 23 megapixel phone by Sony. It's a IMX318 image sensor, and it's got 4x is OIS, 3x is video stabilization, 4K video recording, and an improved low light mode. So, initial thoughts on it?
How much does it cost? Do we not know?
I have no clue.
I mean, this phone is clearly the whole AR phone aspect is, I think, aimed for the
Put it like
devs.
this: if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Probably. That's probably true.
That's the general rule of CES. If you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it.
Well, if it's at CES, you probably can't afford it, is the general that I follow. If it's at CES, it's a concept or it's $20,000. Can't afford it. I'm not
Or both.
bothering with it.
Or
Yeah.
both.
It's gonna be Q2, I think, of this year. But again, I think this is aimed for devs. This is going to have the HPU or TPU from Google, the tensor processing unit, I think they're calling it. That will be alongside the Qualcomm Snapdragon. I don't know what consumer is actually going to buy it. I mean, Asus doesn't market their phones well, so maybe it's going to be something you can find on Amazon and you can buy it. It looks like it's a good spec phone.
It looks like it's good spec. What does it need to have to tell you it's good specs?
Well, it's Asus phone. Sorry, not specs wise. Performance wise, you can never tell how good a Android phone will perform. It has the RAM, but who knows? It could be terrible laggy performance if they have a bloated hardware, bloated software on top of it. Asus typically does. Asus typically has a bloated software.
You get more than 4 hours battery life?
Maybe. Who knows? Probably not. I would honestly, I think if you're using AR stuff, you probably won't.
It does have a headphone jack.
That's true.
That's really all you need now in 2016.
I mean, the big thing is it has 8 gigs of RAM to process everything, so it shouldn't. I mean, but again, I imagine this phone's going to cost a minimum of $600, $700 with the specs that they're putting up. It's 256 GB SSD.
This has got to cost more than that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not an American. It's a Taiwanese manufacturer, right? So
maybe I just figure it. Because it's going to have Tango support, that's going to bump up the cost by at least what, $50, maybe $200.
Might be the RAM. The RAM is higher than any
that's
phone.
just a pure speculation.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it's going to cost a lot more purely because of that.
Yeah.
And it's got Daydream support, so it's got to have the specs for that.
Yeah.
And it can't overheat.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the audience who you're looking for.
But I mean, that was one of Google's justifications for the 6P not getting Daydream was. Because if you remember at I/O, they said 6P would have Daydream support, and then later on they backtracked and said that they couldn't get it to go without overheating.
They never officially said 6P would get it. They said we're looking into it.
Okay.
They were looking into making it, see if it was possible due to backlash that they didn't announce 6P was getting Daydream support. but then they said, yeah, the reason we can't do it is because of that. But I think this phone is clearly aimed for devs. It might be very much cheaper for devs to get it. I think Lenovo is the other one they launched with, right? The VR phone. Um, I don't remember who else made it. There was one other manufacturer, but AR phones, I think we're quite a bit away, but the Google's AR looks impressive. Project Tango looks impressive. I think that's going to be a very big thing to look forward to as well, to change for alternate reality or augmented reality, as AR stands for.
No, I
There's
think they're both cool, right?
needing.
VR is I want to explore an entirely different world.
hmm
That's how I view VR, and that's awesome. I love gaming. VR and gaming makes sense to me. Or you want to do a simulation for something, practice real life stuff, whatever, right? Or something just I would never actually do in real life,
Yeah.
right? Maybe for the thrills or whatever. And then VR is I want to enhance the actual world around me, like the Pokemon Go trailer that you saw and you got all hyped up about, and then you got the actual product.
Yeah. Which I expected, and I was like,
I mean, you expect it, but it was still, they hyped you up so much for it.
I tend to take
I
any
know.
announcement and go, shh.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the basement floor. Let's expect that.
What is realistically going to happen? But that is what you would hope. If you remember with Google Glass, that was the other thing. The way that they would go and have Google Glass advertising on what you could do. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. In terms of phones, though, I think CES kind of showed even more of the big changes to affordable phones, with the Honor phones coming in cheaper at $250, I want to say. There was Huawei's, Honor 6X. There was ZTE with their phones. Then there's other companies that are just coming in with big batteries and pretty good specs, to be honest. Snapdragon 600 processors and for affordable prices. That's a big push that we're seeing more and more of as phones continue to rise. I think there's going to be a clear distinction between premium handsets, and I think the reason why we're seeing such a distinction is companies are undercutting on terms of specs. Like OnePlus is clearly putting out the specs to and saying, hey, we have the new processor, we have the 821 or whatever that's in the OnePlus 3T with 6 gigs of RAM and so on and so forth for less than $500. And then you have the Galaxy S7 or the Edge and the iPhone and the Google Pixel being at the massive price range. And that's, I think, needs a bit of a shift. We're creating a big shift between the two, and there's no mid-range in between.
I don't see Apple going down, right? They're not going to.
I think they will. I think they actually will. I think they're going to create that. I think they're going to bring back that SE model from the iPhone 5 that they introduced.
Oh, how well did that?
I think that did really well. I'm not sure what the numbers were, but I've been seeing more and more people keep asking for that compact phones, and now we're seeing that kind of 5.2 inch and 5.7 inch models.
Are they asking for a compact, smaller phone, or are they asking for a cheaper phone?
I think it goes hand in hand. Smaller phone means lower specs because they're probably not going to put a 2K display into a.
For a lot of people, a phone is I want to go on Facebook and tweet and take a selfie.
But it has to be portable too, and a lot of phones are not longer.
A lot of people, they don't care about power. They don't care about all the latest and greatest stuff like we do, right? They just care, can I go and can I do all those things I just said?
Yeah.
Yes. And does it do it relatively fast enough? Cool.
Yeah. I think we'll see Apple, I think, bring in a more affordable model, lower spec model. I think they should bring it back. I hope they bring it back because it drives more competition into that lower spec flagship models. Samsung isn't doing it really. I mean, yeah, they have the S7 at a 5.2 display and then the S7 Edge at a 5.5, but there's not that much of a difference between those two. Why not? I know what I liked what Sony did, and I hope they continue it with the whole, everything that's spec-wise in our big one is going to be in our little one, except the Pro screen, which is a 720p screen.
If you want
actually even 1080p screens now.
If you want a cheaper Samsung phone, you just gotta wait for the Doubtfire sale, right?
Oh yeah. Or the hundreds of thousands of Galaxy models nobody's heard of. The A
Oh
model,
yeah.
A series, the J
We try
series.
try going
I
every
don't
time I
even
go
know
to
what else
India.
there
I
is.
look at phones on the wall. Okay,
Yeah.
that they're all Samsungs. I've never heard of any of them.
Yeah.
But they're all
And
there.
I think this whole and the big thing with this cheap push, I think it will drive premium phones to be more and more premium, and they're going to really have to start justifying that massive price tag. I think very few companies are doing that, and Samsung I think is one of those companies. I really love their design, and the Note 7 before it blew up looked phenomenal, and I actually wanted to get that phone, and I have the Edge, and so to me, I think their products look like they're $700. I don't know what that means, but it looks more premium than any other phones that I've seen. I think the Pixel looked more like a $500, more like the One Plus, but with more
The
software features.
Pixel was basically, let's make a slightly improved Nexus 6P,
Yeah,
and we're gonna sell it at 200 or something dollars more than it should be, or
yeah.
$150 more than it should be.
And now that we're
Just
shooting,
to make it give this air of premiumness, and
yeah, and now
we,
that we're
we
shooting it a
talked
bit
about this
after
earlier. Right?
CES,
We talked about this during the Pixel episode.
and now after this HTC, sorry, CES, HTC launched their new so-called flagship, the HTC U series, and that is another thing we're going to start seeing more of. That does not look premium to me. It's big. It looks. Eh, I'm still kind of pessimistic about the whole camera bump, and I don't understand why manufacturers think, you know what, we obviously can't make the camera thinner, so let's make the phone thinner and leave the camera bump. So it's not going to sit evenly on the table.
Okay, you know what pisses me off? Manufacturers keep trying to make it thinner, right? And to do that, they're removing the headphone jack.
To be fair, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I want the headphone jack gone. It's a technology that's been around for
over 100
decades
years.
now. For decades. Not I don't know if it's 100 years.
I think
I
it
think
actually
it's
is 100 years old.
but that needs to go. And I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
no, the headphone jack is 100 years old. The 3.5 jack has been around since 1878.
so I think it's time to get rid of it. I think we already know the detriments of it. We know the benefits of it and the detriments of it. And the big argument is, but my things don't support anymore. And I understand that. And I completely agree with you. But I think that's where manufacturers can decide themselves to launch different models aiming for different things. I think if you really want a headphone jack, a manufacturer could actually make a model with the headphone jack.
But you
But
know what?
I think they really need to push flagships without the headphone jacks. And I'm glad Apple took this approach. I'm glad that HTC is taking it. And I do want to see other people follow through with it because until we see more and more people start shifting from it, we're not going to see advances from it. I mean, as you said,
But
it's over 100 years old. Why do we still have it?
Do you think Bluetooth headsets and Bluetooth headphones are the best thing we can have right now?
No, but if you're never going to switch off, they're never going to get better. I don't know why people keep thinking that, well, people
Well,
aren't
part of
going
it,
to buy it.
I think the issue is right now you're removing it without presenting a
Clear alternative.
actual alternative that works efficiently and works well, right? Bluetooth headphones are finicky. You got to charge them a lot. They don't have a great battery life. So anyone who listens to for a frequent period, you're not going to be able to enjoy that. And then the other downside is you lose some sort of theoretically you could lose some sort of audio fidelity, right?
Not through Bluetooth. That would depend on the device because the Bluetooth will hand over any processing to the headphones themselves. So you'll have actually better because in a headphone jack, the phone handles it. So if your DAC in the phone is bad, your headphones will be bad. But
Well,
if your headphones are good in Bluetooth, like for example, I have the Sony's Bluetooth bass ones, these ones, these things. These are incredible.
But
At
I
least to
don't
me,
think
for a
that
$100 perspective.
I don't think people would be as annoyed because it just doesn't feel like so much of a cash grab of hey
And I
buy all
understand that.
goggles,
But
right? But if they had say two USB-C jacks, I don't know, right? And then you can use your headphones with USB-C or something.
Right. But
that would probably be okay with a lot of people.
So this is my thing, right? Wireless devices do get good battery. This one, I consistently listen to 4 to 6 hours on a daily basis, or more than 6 hours, I think, and
how often do you
still
charge
have it. It's through USB.
How often do you charge it?
Every night. I think people can get access to a port every night. You'll have it through the entire day, and you will have enough battery to get through the entire day. And I have base boost on too.
You know what people are great for this? Wireless charging.
Sure, wireless charging.
If I could just have one table which I could put all my electronics on, and it would just charge all of them, that would be fantastic.
That's fine. But I'm saying is, in order to get that, we need to get rid of the wires, and manufacturers need to step up. And yes, there needs to be clear alternatives, but let's go through the alternatives. You do have Bluetooth devices. People just don't want to look for those Bluetooth devices, or people look for the only ones that are there. Apple's EarPods look great or function really well, but $160 might not be the best thing.
Well.
Huh?
I thought in terms of functionality, they were supposed to not be as great.
From what I've seen from YouTubers and other people,
I mean, I could be completely wrong. I don't know.
They seem to really like the device and really love it. Not at $160, but they think it's a phenomenal device. The headphones I have, there are good headphones that are wireless that last a long time and sound phenomenal. And you can charge them at every night or so. The problem is, then let's go into cars. This is where I think the big divide comes in, as people are saying, well, what if I want to listen to my music in the car? The big problem is I understand this part because many people don't have the current models. I don't have the current. Even if you have a current model, not all models ship with Bluetooth. Mine's a 2012 model. I don't have Bluetooth, but if you buy the 2013 model, that was built in, unless you step up. So if you don't have a Bluetooth device vehicle, you need an audio jack. And now phones don't have it. And I completely understand that. And the big problem is it's not Apple's problem, because Apple thinks for some reason works in every vehicle. Their things just plug in through the USB and it works. For Android, you can't do that. You need Android Auto, and no car manufacturer, or I don't know, I guess if you have a 2016 model or 2017 models, you have Android Auto. Otherwise, you're out of luck. That is where the big divide to me comes in. And battery life. But people, if you can get rid of that audio jack, which as you said is 100 years old or longer, it's time to get rid of it. We know there's better ways to do it. We just have to do it, except people never bothered getting it. Now they're being forced to. It's going to hurt for a little bit, but it's going to get better. And that's the transition. That's with every single transition. When we switched from SD to HD, when we switched from analog to digital, this is going to be the thing. It's another transition of people are so used to the audio jack, it's going to hurt for a bit, and that's completely understandable. But it has to happen. And unless a manufacturer goes all the way with it, it has to happen to me. I think I want to see, I'm not saying they completely removed from all devices. As I said, manufacturers need to make that decision of who they're aiming for. And they need to make that decision. I think flagship products, maybe the S8 or Apple's iPhone 8, I think can continue and say, hey, we're not going to put the headphone jack in here, but we do have another model that does. We believe the flagship product is a product that we think is the best. I think, to me, it's not what the consumers want. It's what the companies believe is what you want. They also want to push their own thing. And that could be their wireless devices. I think they need to use an open protocol, but a wireless way is the future, and we need to make that transition sometime. So no matter when we make it, people are going to moan about it, no matter when. The transition will happen. It's going to be slow, but watch in a year or two, boom, 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 we're going to get a lot more wireless accessories, as you said, wireless charging capabilities, and one actually good wireless protocol instead of Qi and whatever other ones people are using now.
I think we're here now. Let's just quickly go through some of the other wacky things that we have and round this up.
Yeah.
All right. So Acer's $9,000 laptop.
I don't know why you're spending $9,000 on a laptop.
That's Predator.
It's 20 pounds. It's 20 pounds.
Is that? It's not even a laptop at that point.
It's as I like to term it, it's a mobile workstation.
The workstation, yeah.
It's literally your
I mean,
desk.
Okay.
and you're carrying it
It's
with you.
got a lot of fancy stuff in it.
It's cool, but
It
that's
looks
about it.
cool, I
It
guess.
has it. You know the best part about it is it needs 2 power sources. It can't function off one. You need to plug it into 2 outlets. So if you're in an airport and you're trying to actually do something, play games on it, you need 2 freaking outlets. It won't function. So I don't know. It's a cool concept. I'm sorry, it's not a concept. It actually is going to be on sale later this year. It
For who? Who's
actually
gonna buy
will
it?
be on sale. I
Who's
don't
gonna
know
buy it?
what maniac's gonna buy it. I applaud you, and I want to see why you bought it. But
Razer's Project Valkyrie.
Valkyrie seems interesting, but pointless to me as well.
Yeah, but it looks cool.
Though, on that aspect, who was the asshole that stole it? Why would you steal it? Come on.
Wait, did someone actually steal it?
Yes, the Valkyries, they were stolen from CES
dick.
booths, and Razer's offering money to get their.
What a dick.
I don't know. I think they said 2 of theirs got stolen. I don't know if it was 1 or 2, but they did get stolen. And to me, I was like, but why? What's the point? It doesn't even work.
And you know the whoever ever talks about it, you know it's going to be that person who stole it.
Exactly. So it seems pointless and dumb, and have fun getting arrested for stealing. But that thing looks cool, and that you get 3 screens, and yeah, it's using a 1080, their new Razer Pro,
I like
their
having
1080 chip, but 3 screens and a lap. The whole point of a laptop is to move it around and do some quick work or do some things. And I know people want screens on laptop, but 3 screens might be overdoing it. I think it's a cool concept, and I think it will stay.
My work laptop, I had that, and I had 2 screens attached to that.
That's sure, but that's different. That's still a station. I'm talking
I had 2
laptop.
actual nice monitors, so
Right.
you know, those are better anyways.
But
It's a cool idea. The Dell's 8K monitor.
Dell's already pulling out 8K. I know there was some TVs last year at CES that were showing off 8K. Sony had some wall thing, like this massive wall TV that was 8K, I believe. That looked pretty sweet. And some monitors are not going to 8K. We have LG's 5K monitor launching for the MacBook and for other devices, I guess, now, but just launched. 8K monitors are cool. I don't know what graphics chip is supporting that. I don't know if, other than the 1080, that can actually power it and whatever you're doing. Well, no games have it.
No, even the most crazy machines will struggle to actually do anything with it.
So
Costs $5,000. So if you really want it,
it's a high def monitor.
I don't know.
I do really love Dell's monitors though.
Sure,
they're very
it's
thin.
nice.
They're very nice.
I think it's, again, this is one of those. It's a concept, and 10 years from now, I'd expect it to be a standard or something.
Well, it's not a concept. It's going on sale.
Right. I mean, sorry, I misspoke in that, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah, it'll be a standard.
It's coming up now, and eventually it's going to be the big thing.
Yeah.
That everyone has.
And on Dell's thing, their laptops XPS line, which I think they had several shots fired at Apple with the MacBook, XPS 13 and XPS 15 pushing out with bigger specs. I think the XPS 15 with I think they call it the Infinity Edge display or whatever, the thin bezel. This thing looks beautiful. At 4K resolution, touch screen, goes all the way back or extends, and then you have 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM. You have the new Kaby Lake processors. And everybody was like, oh man, they have a USB-C slot and a USB-A slot, which again, I go back to the point of, it's cool. I think if manufacturers go full out like Apple did, I think we'll see it change faster, but Dell's going about it this way, which I respect. I think each manufacturer makes that decision on their own, and you make that decision with your wallet as a consumer. So pick what you want, pick which you think is best.
All right.
But I loved it. And then Razer's, again, Project Ariana, which I was more impressed with. That looked cool. And
it's awesome.
We've seen several versions or iterations of that from several companies, right? It's kind of like the Dell, Microsoft's Project Room or whatever they had several years ago at E3.
They're the future vision video thing.
That room thing
That
that
was-
they showed off at an E3 conference, that was what the vibe was for me. That looked like it. It looks really cool.
If we're talking Vive and AR VR, Qualcomm had their headset.
Oh yeah, Qualcomm had theirs. Intel had theirs.
Their walk around the
Alloy,
ring.
Project Alloy, I think it was called. That looked pretty sweet. Obviously, I couldn't watch a basketball game. The Villanova, I think, was the one they were showing to people at CES there.
I guess the last thing is Kingston's got the world's largest capacity flash drive, 2 terabytes.
Oh man, is it? Yeah, flash drive with USB-C on one end, or is it not USB-C?
USB
It's
3.1.
3.1 USB-A.
Yeah.
So that looked cool.
But hey, I mean, you've got that kind of stuff, storage space, something that's small.
Yeah.
Any other last thoughts? Anything else to bring up?
I mean, there were several other cool stuff that we didn't talk about, but the Honda self-balancing bike.
I want to end it with this. Because it's CES and we have to have our fair share of just ridiculous stuff, the Bluetooth toaster.
Yeah, IoT everything. The smart hairbrush, the smart toaster.
So Griffin came out with a toaster. So if you want to control all your settings for just how much you want your toast to be ever so slightly crisp or not, you can do that through your smartphone.
Yay! This is exactly what I asked for. My dreams are coming true now. No, I'm joking. It's cool. That's a cool thing. We'll see much more smart things with every single thing. Smart clothes are a thing now. Nike, I think, is making smart clothing for athletes. Want to see more of that. But other than that, CS was pretty cool. But I don't think it was as good as I expected it to be. I don't know what I was expecting though. Either way, I thought it would be more of an update on last year and more manufacturers kind of cutting. The problem is CES used to be a TV focused show. TV cameras, phones. I don't never make a big presence here because MWC is a month or two away in Barcelona, so
All right.
nobody's actually going to be able to bring anything here.
I guess that's all we have.
Yeah.
That's our show.